The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. At least I shall not want to be a shepherd, for what do I know about sheep? Okay, that's not a documented statement from the Gospels, but I can imagine Simon Peter saying something like that after his encounter with the risen Jesus. They had had a lovely breakfast on the beach, grilled fish and bread, and then Jesus had told Peter to look after his sheep and follow him. Follow Jesus, who was apparently getting ready to leave the earthly realm. How was he, Simon Peter, a fisherman, supposed to care for anybody's sheep, and how can you follow somebody who was leaving the earth? Jesus often spoke in riddles, and this one was going to keep his lead disciple thinking for a long time. Maybe Simon Peter sat in his boat that night and thought about it. He had so many memories to sift through, so many lessons from Jesus from which to draw. Of everything he had ever heard Jesus say, what was it he was supposed to remember? Which piece of Jesus' teaching was the puzzle piece that would help him figure out the riddle? What did it mean for a career fisherman to follow Jesus and care for sheep? Drifting on the lake, I wonder if Simon Peter recalled that time a few months back when Jesus had healed the blind man. You better believe that stunt had caused quite a stir, a healing on the Sabbath when no work was permitted at all. Who did he think he was? The religious authorities wanted to know. The man who had been healed testified that Jesus must be from God. The religious leaders were appalled at the man's audacity at trying to teach them, and they drove him out. But Jesus went and found that man, brought him back into the fold, and gave a little sermon about sheep and about shepherding. According to the Gospel of John, in the 10th chapter, beginning at verse 11, this is what Jesus said. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because the hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. Jesus, in calling himself the Good Shepherd, was revealing his identity as the leader chosen by God. You see, in the old Hebrew scriptures, the word shepherd was sometimes used as a metaphor for king. And certain prophets like Ezekiel engaged that metaphor further to describe how God would send the people a shepherd to care for them, leading them into a healthy life and a safe community. Unlike the corrupt shepherds, the kings who had failed to care for the flock. Now Jesus, as the good shepherd, would do anything to care for the flock, even lay down his life to protect the sheep. As Simon Peter recalled Jesus' words, it might have dawned on him that this is exactly what Jesus had done, in his dying on the cross to be sure, but also in his living, as he dedicated his life to feeding, healing, and restoring the flock. He knew that his ministry of advocating for the poor and marginalized would cost him dearly, yet he was willing to stand up to the wolves and denounce the hired hands, those civic and religious leaders who failed to protect the flock. So Jesus, as a good shepherd, was more than just a protector of his flock. He was part of their lives. Unlike a detached king or unapproachable high priest, Jesus was connected to the people he shepherded. He had sat down to share meals with them. He had wept with them when they mourned. He even called them by name. When Jesus' disciples heard his voice, they knew who he was, their shepherd. Jesus was the good shepherd because he was willing to be in relationship with his sheep, to know them and to be known by them. This is what makes Jesus not an okay shepherd, not a C- shepherd, but truly a good shepherd. And he didn't say any of this in order to get huge pats on the back or trophies or accolades. He didn't need that. What he did need was for his disciples to hear and understand. This is what a good shepherd does. So that one day by the lakeside, when he would say, "Take care of my sheep for me," they would know what to do. Because once Jesus left this earthly life, the shepherding was going to be up to the disciples. If they were going to keep on caring for Jesus' flock, including the sheep that he said were not yet part of the fold, they were going to have to build trust the way Jesus did, by knowing and by being known, by being vulnerable with one another, by breaking bread together, by sharing life together. This is the path of discipleship. It's not just about pointing people in the direction of the food or the clothing or the shelter or the doctors. Those things are helpful and necessary, but a disciple goes the extra mile. A disciple of Jesus notices and addresses the other needs too, the need to be known, to be seen, to be cared for, not just as a project, but as a person. Jesus-style discipleship is about relationship and reciprocity, going after the scattered and the lost, bringing everyone into the fold so that all may abide in safety and share in the abundance. For Jesus, being a shepherd was about loving the flock, and that is the legacy he left his disciples. That is the theme of the first letter of John, beautifully stated in chapter 3, verses 16 through 18, which read, "We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and refuses help? Little children, let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action." This is what it means to follow Jesus and to care for his sheep. It's not about words or speech, and it goes far beyond thoughts and prayers. Real love is shown in truth and action by the giving of ourselves, even laying down our lives for one another, which is not a call to martyrdom, but to something even harder, vulnerable relationship. It means seeing others, letting them see us too, seeking to know one another and being known. It's about belonging to one another, recognizing we are all part of Jesus' flock, a beloved community that will not be complete until all have been brought in and cared for. Now that task must have seemed daunting to Simon Peter, a simple fisherman with a boat and a net. How on earth was he supposed to bring all these sheep into Jesus' flock? How was he supposed to care for them all? The same way Jesus did, by building connections one relationship at a time, and by teaching disciples to do the same. Simon Peter would be the rock upon which the church was built, with the purpose of carrying on the shepherding work of Jesus. But of course, that work wasn't meant to be completed by one person in one lifetime. It's an ongoing project, a God-sized dream to bring all of humanity into loving connection. It's our work. And we learn to do it the same way that Simon Peter did, by following Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who calls us his sheep, while showing us how to be shepherds too. May these words inspire you into action, dear shepherds, going into the world to show kindness and love to one another, Jesus style. God bless you.